Nintendo has made one hell of a comeback. After the failure that was the Wii U, they busted out the next big thing for the company, and that was the Nintendo Switch. It outsold the Wii U in just its first year of launch. It was a result of great marketing, innovation, a huge library of ported indie titles, and third-party support, but most importantly, there was an immensely strong lineup of first-party titles in just the first 8 months of launch. And of course, one of those games was Super Mario Odyssey, perhaps one of the most widely anticipated Mario games to date. After that E3 trailer showing off the capture mechanic, just about everybody I knew was immediately on board. And then Nintendo comes out and they're like, yeah, this one's gonna be a little closer to 64 and Sunshine than the other games. Oh man, people have been itching for something more open like 64 for a long time now. I mean, it'd be 15 freaking years since the last one like that. Mario kind of fell into this more focused and linear fashion with the Galaxy games and onward, and while I do love the Galaxy games, there's nothing I wanted more than for the series to return to the sandbox style of 64 and Sunshine. There was so much untapped potential that they never explored, so much to polish in a great formula they had yet to perfect. And it kinda looked like Odyssey was gonna be the game to finally do all of that. Of course, I got Mario Odyssey the day it came out, and like, man, I couldn't even tell you how much I love this game. If you watch my top 15 games of 2017 video, you might remember me slamming this game down as number 1. I really did love it that much, but now it's time to give it a replay with a more critical eye. And with every other 3D Mario game also recently replayed and fresh in my memory, this has been a pretty interesting journey. But yeah, now I'm gonna give it a thorough, proper look, being as objective as I can. But of course, I can't promise that at some point I'm not going to get extremely excited like I did with Galaxy 2, but yeah, let's get at it.
Super Mario Odyssey!
For the first time in the series, the game cold opens to Mario and Bowser already in mid-fight. Oh my god, Bowser's freaking menacing in this game. The character animation and sound design, oh, it really gives you a great sense of his weight. Like, every blow he throws at Mario, it looks like something that could demolish a freaking building, dude. Mario gets freaking blasted into oblivion as Bowser makes off for the princess, declaring that he will finally have his wedding with her. Oh man, that shot of Mario's hat getting torn up, that is the cherry on the cake. It's the most iconic thing about Mario, and seeing it torn up to shreds after Mario's defeat, it's like, man, way to kick a guy when he's down. Mario then plummets into the Cap Kingdom, where he meets up with a little guy named Cappy, this little ghosty hat dude. He explains to Mario that Bowser tore through his homeland and kidnapped his sister to be used as a tiara for Peach during the wedding. So, with a goal in common, Cappy agrees to accompany Mario on his journey, taking shape of a brand new hat for Mario. Oh, okay, there we go. That's what I'm talking about. Cappy is a huge game changer. You can throw him kind of like a boomerang. Doing this has a lot of different purposes, though. You can attack enemies, you can break stuff, pluck posts out of the ground, you can even use him as a platform. But the most important action that comes along with Cappy, of course, is the capture mechanic. Chucking your hat on specific creatures, objects, and enemies will allow you to take control of them and use whatever abilities they come with. So for example, you put your hat on the frog, then you're the frog, and you can jump extremely high, or maybe you'll throw your hat on a chain chomp and you can pull back and slingshot yourself and bust stuff up. It's so sick. It's a pretty gigantic part of the game, so I'll save the meat of it for later, but yeah, for now, why don't we take a look at Mario's other moves? So yeah, pretty much everything from Mario 64 and Mario Sunshine are all back. The long jump, the backflip, the side somersault, even the spin jump, though the spin jump is closer to its 3D World counterpart, and I still don't find it very useful in comparison to Sunshine's excellent spin jump, but whatever, it's at least here, I guess? I know I say this like every freaking video, but man, I don't think any jump will ever compare to the spin jump in Mario Sunshine. That was so good. Also, returning from 3D World, we've got the ground pound jump and the roll move. I still never really found the ground pound jump that useful, but the roll is now generally used for just getting around more quickly, as it's the fastest Mario can move without any sort of vehicle. You can also roll out of a ground pound to start with a burst of speed, and that does have a handful of very practical uses. And the physics on Mario himself feel really good in this this game too. The momentum you build from long jumping or running down hills or any preceding motion, it always carries on faithfully into every forthcoming jump. There's also an extra layer of visual communication to help the player to get a good feel for Mario's current speed at any given time. It's communicated by Mario extending his arms as he accelerates, which is also a nod to Mario 3, so it doubles as both a sweet reference to an older Mario game and a way to help create a great game feel. Oh man, the dive is back too, finally! It's about time. They had like 4 games without the thing? Though it does work very differently than it did in previous games, and I really didn't like it that much at first. Instead of being mapped to a dedicated button like B like it was before, you'll now push the Y button in mid-ground pound to execute it. Yeah, it is kind of weird, but it really doesn't take that long to get used to. You just push the shoulder button and the Y button together, and that'll just do it. There's this really weird thing where they only use 2 of the 4 face buttons though. A and B both jump, and X and Y also both do the exact same thing, and I understood why that was the case in 3D World, because they wanted that game to be playable with just the Wii Remote, which, only had 2 face buttons, so they only wanted 2 face buttons to control the whole game. But the simplest controller you're going to be playing Odyssey with is the disconnected Joy-Con, but that also has 4 face buttons, so I really don't know why they didn't just map the dive to one of these. The other reason I didn't really care for the new dive at first was because instead of playing off your existing momentum, like in Sunshine or 64, it always sets you to an exact speed. Every dive is exactly the same, completely negating the wind-up. This was kind of baffling to me at first, but as I played on, it totally made sense. They did it this way so you can throw your hat and then dive at it with consistent results. You're not going to be undershooting it or overshooting it. If you throw your hat and dive, you're going to be able to land on it. And it's a good thing they did it this way too, because this right here is one of the most important moves in this game. Throwing Cappy and jumping off of him. You can get some serious distance out of this jump, and there's so much tricky mid-jump malarkey you can do with it to really get yourself around. There's some variations of it too. One of my favorites is ground pound rolling into the hat and launching off a cliff at high speed. This one was really helpful for Balloon World. There is a lot to Mario's moveset this time, and honestly, I think it's the best moveset in the entire series. On top of having almost every move from previous games, they incorporated Cappy into the moveset in a way that also changes how you will navigate the stage around you, and it opens up a million platforming possibilities. There's some additional moves you can also pull off by shaking the controller, which is fine if you're playing with 2 disconnected Joy-Con, the classic Wiimote and Nunchuck style, but I personally like to play with the Pro Controller, and that can be really awkward. I don't want to have to shake the entire controller if I just want to move faster with the roll move or climb up a pole faster. Though I guess that's what an impatient person's going to be doing anyway when they just want to get up the pole already, and that probably looks pretty funny. It's mostly a problem when playing portably because, you can't see what you're freaking doing when you're shaking the entire screen. These extra motion control actions are never something you need to use, but there's something I'd like to use, going faster when you roll, climbing poles faster. It's usually something that makes you do something faster or more efficient, like having Cappy fling to a nearby enemy after throwing him, or using a spin attack as the Cheep Cheep, or a dash move as a lava bubble. And again, there's unused buttons on the controller, so I really don't see why they couldn't have mapped these additional actions to one of these buttons. At least the simpler ones, maybe not getting Cappy to go in a certain direction because that requires moving the remote in the direction you want him to go, but something simple like the lava bubble dash move that could have been a button. I don't really see any reason they couldn't have done that. So that's the controls. I think they're fantastic. It's just I wish the motion controls were a little less, I wouldn't call them intrusive, but there's actions that I wish you could execute without them. But anyway, why don't we talk about the level design now? So the levels themselves are now these big open worlds, just like Sunshine and 64. Completely gone are the short linear stages that end with a flagpole. Okay, I can't be the only one who's absolutely sick of the flagpole, right? Not to get off topic, but yeah, it was cool that they finally brought it back for New Super Mario Bros. Because that's it's like the old games, but brand new, and that was cool. But then it was also in New Super Mario Bros. Wii, and then 3D Land, and then NSMB 2, then 3D World, then NSMB U. I get it, you like the flagpole, but there were other things at the end of Mario stages before, like the bar thing, or the cards. You just give me anything but the flagpole, jeez. I don't even know why I'm complaining about this in this video. This isn't even in Odyssey, but I didn't when I made the 3D World video, so I'm gonna do it now. I don't even care. Anyway, yeah, that's all a thing of the past. No more flagpoles. Here we now have 14 open areas that you'll journey to throughout the game. You'll start in the Cap Kingdom, then you make your way to the Cascade Kingdom, and from there, you'll journey to each forthcoming stage in a linear progression, sometimes with the choice of which one you want to do first. Now, while that probably does sound a little bit linear, the levels themselves are constructed in the least linear way the series has seen so far. It's not like 64 when you're given a mission and sometimes you can do the missions kinda out of order if you get lucky or maybe you look around. No, now you go in and the game's like, yeah, just get like 20 or 30 moons, any of them, it doesn't matter, go nuts. Yeah, so moons, that's the collectible this time, just like stars or shine sprites. These will power up your ship, the Odyssey, allowing you to travel to the next kingdom. Unlike collectibles of past games though, they don't boot you out of the stage every time you get one. You get it, Mario does a little jig, and you keep on going. Very similar to the jiggies in Banjo-Kazooie. You know, actually, now that I think of it, this whole game's structure kinda more closely resembles a Banjo game than it does Mario 64. So when you first land, the open world might seem a little bit intimidating at first because like these levels are leaps and bounds bigger than in 64 and Sunshine, but when you land there's always a brief story element that will push you in the right direction. So for example, when you land in the Sand Kingdom, everything's frozen because frickin' Bowser did some, I don't know, stupid ass malarkey to freeze the desert, so you're like, oh okay, this has something to do with that inverted pyramid, right? And the game guides you along this subtle pathway to the objective. Then you fight a boss, figure out what Bowser's doing there, you unfreeze the desert, bada boom. That's pretty much how most of these kingdoms will start, you know, just with a little push, giving you an objective that you can do to get familiar with that level, and then after the boss fight, it'll plop you back down by the Odyssey, and the game's like, oh wait, we don't have enough moons, so yep, go back out there and do whatever you want now. And what's really nice about how the game goes about doing this is that it's always done with an element of story. Bowser comes to every kingdom to take something he needs for his wedding. A ring, a dress, a cake, some flowers. His presence in every kingdom has a story reason, and it always ends up screwing up the lives of the little dudes that live there. You get to see how the inhabitants of any given place have been affected directly by Bowser's actions, and by extension, it kind of makes you think, wow, Bowser's a jerk. I'ma go kick his ass. I kinda think this is exactly how I've wanted a Mario story to be executed. The goal of Mario is simple, you know, just stop Bowser because he wants a wedding. It's juvenile and cartoony, but they play off of such a simple route in a way that constantly exists and is always affecting the characters. The story doesn't vanish when Bowser and Peach leave sight like usual. Every new kingdom you enter, every step to Bowser, the story is there. For once it feels like a genuine pursuit than it does just video game levels with a story at the beginning and then story at the end, you know? Mario Sunshine was really close to doing something like this, but it all disappears like 10 shine sprites in when you go to Pinna Park. Odyssey, on the other hand, this game keeps trucking the full mile, and I really love that about this game. One thing I love about Odyssey's levels is that they're not overwhelmingly large, yet they're so densely packed with things to do. Moons are hidden so frequently, and if you really do need a nudge in the right direction, every level has a pamphlet outlining points of interest that you might want to check out. Okay, can we appreciate how smart this was to make this a travel pamphlet? Oh my god, dude, that was brilliant. It also has a map to help you navigate, and a list to keep track of which moons you have and have not collected. And there's also flags you can use to fast travel to previously explored areas. If you really do need some more hints though, you can talk to Talkatoo, this little parrot dude whose mouth opens way the frick too big. Oh my god. I bet this guy could eat like 13 hot dogs at once. This guy will tell you the name of a moon, you know, kind of like the mission names in Mario 64, just a little phrase that gives you an idea of something you can do in the open world somewhere. Or if you do need some more help, you can also pay Toad 50 coins to mark a random moon on your map. Even if it's not a moon, you'll always find something in every nook and cranny, like hidden stashes of coins. Like, look right here, it's like you're looking up there and you're thinking, yeah, there's no way anybody can get up there, but with enough tricky ass speedrun Tony Hawk malarkey, you can actually get up there. And there's coins up here. Like, they knew you could get up here. This really seems like a developer oversight, but they know. They always know. Like, talk about leaving no stone unturned, for real, dude. And the best part is that coins actually do something in this game. And I'm not talking about those annoying 100 coin stars either. There's nothing of the sort in Odyssey. Instead, coins are now used as actual currency, and you'll use them to buy costumes and collectibles for Mario. Instead of losing a life, you'll now lose a chunk of coins every time you die, so yeah, the traditional life system, it's donezo. And as iconic as it was, you know, sometimes you really do have to let traditions die to let a series advance. When you die, you now lose something actually valuable to you as a penalty, instead of just making you re-enter the stage if you die too many times. It was always something that's been kinda outdated for a long time now, and I think it's a wonderful thing that they moved on from it in a very smart way that still has consequences. We've also got purple coins, which are unique to each kingdom, and you'll have to collect these ones to purchase the kingdom-specific costumes. Honestly, this is one of the most fun parts of the game, getting to dress up Mario any way you want. Almost every costume is from something too, like Chef Mario from Yoshi's Cookie, Artist Mario from Mario Paint, Scientist Mario from that one Super Game Boy commercial, Cowboy Mario from Mario Party 2, and oh my god, the list goes on and on. They've added some new ones in an update too, and ever since I've been sporting the Shades and Shine Sprite shirt, I just really like Mario Sunshine, okay? Now, in your efforts to collect moons, you'll use the capture ability to take control of different enemies. This is perhaps the single most brilliant thing the series has ever introduced. It changes the way you play any given segment in such a streamlined fashion. The game no longer has any need for power-ups because you'll just grab a nearby enemy to handle the situation instead. You might grab a Cheep Cheep to swim around easier, or an uproot to climb up to higher areas, or a Fire Bro to light some torches. There's an amazing balance between practical obstacle course navigation and puzzle solving. Looking around you and thinking, what can I control here? What abilities can I gain? It has infinite potential for both sides of the spectrum. For example, we've got this guy making some soup and he's like, yeah, the pot's not hot. So you're like, okay, how can I heat up this soup? Okay, why don't we control this lava bubble and jump in? Boom, puzzle solved. Or maybe it's like, how do I get up there? Oh, I'm gonna grab a Goomba, I'm gonna jump on another Goomba, and I'm gonna make a big stack of Goombas, and I'm gonna be able to reach that moon up there. A huge part of what makes this mechanic so fully realized is that they did not simply limit themselves to existing Mario enemies. They didn't just go through a list of every Mario bad guy and think which ones could have fun abilities. No, instead, they thought of what mechanics could change up the gameplay in fun and interesting ways, and then designed enemies based on that, instead of vice versa. That is why we have such an abundance of brand new Mario enemies to possess. Uproots, for example, the leg stretching mechanic is so interesting, and it adds so much to the game, but no previously existing Mario enemy could probably do something like that, so they made up a new one. The same thing with Shrims to fire cannonballs and Gushins to fly around and propel water. My favorite has gotta be Pokio, these little bird dudes that stab their beak into a surface and fling themselves around. It's so cool. One of the smartest things about this is that it limits where you can take these characters, but without making it feel restricted. They don't give you a straight up time limit on fireballs like Mario Galaxy did. You can capture a Fire Bro and you can use them as long as you like. However, you're only going to be able to get as far as you can as a Fire Bro. He can't wall jump like Mario, right? So you're not going to be able to bring him wherever you want. This way, the game can give you new powers with total freedom while keeping them in a controlled setting without the player feeling like they've taken abilities away from Mario. There's also inanimate objects in the environment you can capture briefly just for transportation. Poles for flinging yourself, power lines for quick travel. With the levels being large open worlds, they made sure to have plenty of ways to get around. And it's staggering how much they cranked out of this one mechanic to achieve all of that, on top of Mario's already impressive moveset. Now, some people might find a moveset like this to be wasted on simply exploring a world around you instead of navigating a well-designed obstacle course, so if you're in that crowd, you still won't be disappointed. While the core of the game are these big, open, explorable levels, they also serve as hub worlds to smaller linear challenges. Like, these are straight up Mario Galaxy levels. Just find a pipe or a red door and it's like, okay, obstacle course time. And these, like Galaxy's levels, are a freaking blast. They're well designed, challenging, they're utterly fantastic. They experiment with a variety of gimmicks that wouldn't really work in an open world, or perhaps they make you take control of an enemy and use them in a situation that can't really stem from open-ended game design, but something more controlled and linear. You really get the best of both worlds here. This is a 64 style game, but they sneak in the very best of Galaxy as well in this absolute absolute perfect blend. There's always 2 moons to get in all of these levels, one for getting to the end, and one more hidden in there somewhere else. It might be a tad troublesome to have left the area then not know if there's anything left to do there, but thankfully, Cappy's there to tell ya. If you come back and you're done with the zone, he'll be like, nah, I think there's nothing left to do here, but if there's still purple coins or a moon left there, he'll let you know right away. I absolutely love Cappy, dude. I really gotta say, I think he is the best companion character we've ever seen accompany Mario in a main series title. I never found Luma that interesting. You know, I even forget the guy exists since you barely even see the dude. I thought Flood was alright, though. He had some dialogue, did some cool stuff, but Cappy is the first one to really feel involved with the story and to be genuinely helpful when it comes to informing the player. And it's very non-intrusive what he has to say. Never will the game stop you in place to let you know what he's spitting at you. It simply displays the text on screen as you play with an adorable little sound quip. Man, between personality and visual appeal and informativeness and how he lets you capture enemies, Cappy is easily the greatest Mario companion ever. And I'm not saying that because he's possessed me. That's fiction. That can't happen. He's so sweet and thoughtful too, always keeping an eye out for when Mario decides to let the sun burn his eyes. I really love how they incorporate the captured enemies into the boss fights too. They all feel truly unique, instead of the same, rinse and repeat 3-hit motions they've always had before. I thought Galaxy had some weak boss fights. Sunshine's were a little more interesting and challenging with figuring out what to do and executing it, the Manta Ray fight especially, but Odyssey I think is the first one to have rather strong boss fights. For the first time in the series, I feel like each phase is genuinely more challenging than the last. Most levels will have a main boss fight, but there's also the recurring cast of mini-bosses called the Brutals. These pompous jerk rabbit dudes were hired by Bowser to beat up Mario, and these fights are good, but they do repeat many times throughout the game, which some people might grow a little bit tired of. One of the best levels in the entire game has got to be New Donk City in the Metro Kingdom. It's not even that big an area, but the verticality created by the tall buildings adds a whole new level to looking for moons. The entire stage is built with moving Mario in mind. You can bounce off the cars, off of the people walking down the street, you can climb the signs, swing off poles. Buildings are often placed close enough to wall jump all the way up to the top. It's a city-sized jungle gym, and I think it's one of the most satisfying stages to navigate in the entire series. There's been some complaints of an uncanniness to the realistic human characters, and I don't know, it never really bothered me that much. I mean, like, realistic rabbits and cartoony rabbits exist in the same game, so I don't really see why realistic and cartoony humans can also exist. I always saw it as an exaggeration of something already here to emphasize which characters are important. Like Mario and Pauline are humans, but they look distinct and cartoony because they're the ones that need to stick out in a crowd. They're the ones that matter. I don't know, that's kind of how I always saw it. I know that's just one argument in a sea of many others, so, take that as you will. It's a very subjective thing, but I will admit that I don't really think the human models look that great. That aside, though, the presentation overall is absolutely outstanding. Of course, being the newest Mario game, it's the best we've seen yet. The lighting effects look absolutely beautiful, and seeing all of these cute characters like Dory get such an amazing HD facelift, it was really a treat. And the music, oh my god, dude, it is one of the most varied Mario soundtracks ever. Every kingdom has its own distinct style. Sometimes it's quiet and ambient. Other times it's loud and proud. Odyssey is where Mario's finally found a nice little niche between orchestra and jazz, but thanks to all of the other kinds of music in here, they're now able to use them more sparingly. This means every time you hear that orchestra kick in or that brass light up, it's so much more powerful. Of course, I'm talking about one of the game's strongest moments, the New Donk City Festival. It's like they finally remembered that Donkey Kong was actually the first Mario game and decided to give it the proper homage it deserves. Oh yeah, I should probably mention these 2D segments. segments. Galaxy had 2D segments as well, but here, they're straight up 8-bit areas that play just like the original Super Mario Bros. It's really cool. They even carry over the costumes you're wearing into the sprite, and that level of detail is so freaking sick. And you know what's a gimmick if they don't do something actually interesting with it, right? We've got some gravity stuff similar to Galaxy, but more impressively, enemies can leave the 8-bit zone and become 3D. Oh my god, that's so cool! Aside from the Metro Kingdom, I think one of the other strongest areas is the Luncheon Kingdom. I love the way this place looks. It's low poly, but it isn't retro. There's so many vibrant and dreamy colors. The way this place is stylized is something else. There's a lot of navigating large areas of lava as lava bubbles and plowing through cheese as Hammer Bros throwing frying pans. I love how they wear chef hats in this level. Yeah, that's kind of like the whole theme in this game is hats. Enemies you can capture will often wear a hat themed after the level. Seeing Goombas with pirate hats, that was pretty good. It was also pretty cool to finally see what Hammer Bros look like without their helmets on. They got some little spiky hair going on. It's a good look for the little dudes. Alright, so I really want to talk about the endgame stuff, but of course first we gotta talk about the ending. So I'm gonna put a spoiler warning right here, skip right here if you don't want to see the ending. And if you haven't seen the ending and have not played the game yet and want to play the game, I recommend you skip this part because this game's ending is really freaking good. So please don't spoil it for yourself, but otherwise, So Bowser's like, I'm gonna have my wedding on the moon, and we're like, oh, I guess we're going to the moon, I guess. So this is the final stretch of the game. There's plenty of moons here, but you won't be looking for them for now. It looks like a straight shot to the final area, but it's actually a full-fledged area you can fully explore and play once you've beat the game. Alright, so the final challenge is one of those Galaxy-styled linear stages, and it's got charging chucks, dude! Yes, we got charging chucks! Oh my god, dude, this is so sick. Okay, I love charging chucks. They are my favorite Mario enemy ever, and you get to be one in this game, and that freaking owns. Alright, so once you're through the final challenge, you enter the building, and this part's so good. Mario crashes the freaking wedding, smashing through the door, showing up in a snazzy suit and hat. Everyone's dressed so formally. It's like, this is like the most dramatically climactic thing that's ever happened with Mario. But at the same time, it's juvenile, it's silly, it's charming and heartwarming. It's just so good. It's so good. The final fight with Bowser is really solid too. Dodging the attacks is challenging, and they even sneak in some unexpected counterattacks at the peak of the battle. I think this is my favorite final battle with Bowser, but the best is yet to come. So the fight ends with Mario and Bowser doing so much damage that they fall into the very crust of the moon. Lava's all around them, pouring in from the walls. Bowser's unconscious, and the place is falling apart. It really looks like dire straits for Mario and Peach. And here it is, the single most satisfying moment in video game history. Just like that, it hits you. A realization. No freaking way. Oh my god! And at the peak of it all, during the final segment, this pop rock song with the vocalist of Jump Up Superstar kicks in, and it's a Mario-themed love song. The final kicker to this amazing, amazing moment in this game. And once you're finally out, we get the final cutscene. Bowser plops out, Mario sticks the landing, and Peach floats down gracefully. Oh my god, dude, the tension gets so high here. Cappy and Tiara look at Mario, they're all dressed for the occasion. It's gonna happen. Mario's gonna propose to Peach. This is how Mario Odyssey ends. Psych! Bowser jumps in and proposes, then Mario squeezes in and proposes too, and Peach is like, what are you doing, guys, stop, and she turns them both down. And here, right here it is. This shot right here. Mario and Bowser sharing a moment. This right here is where it all makes sense. 32 years of Mario and Bowser's rivalry all make sense. They both share a common goal. They both want the princess. Bowser's willing to kidnap her for it, and Mario's willing to sacrifice life and limb for it. But in the end, neither of them can achieve it. They're a lot more similar than they think, and this sudden, beautiful inconsistency in tone hammers in the idea that in the end, these are just cartoon characters. They're goals, their ambitions, why they do the things they do. It doesn't matter. It's all just a vessel for Mario to go on an adventure and to take you along. And this one beautiful moment that's as touching as it is comedic and silly makes that all clear in a microsecond. And it was during the credits that I really started to think about the lyrics to that song, the one that played when you escaped from Honeyloon Ridge, and I realized it's not a love song about Mario and Peach, or Bowser and Peach, or any two fictional characters. It's a love song about the player and the game. Just think about the lyrics. Tripping through 2 dimensions. Up on the moon, we'll twirl and swoon. Just lead the way, I'll follow you. It's describing the player taking Mario on journeys of past and present. You lead the way and Mario follows. He's talking to you, dude. A miracle in 3 dimensions. Follow the brick path straight to my heart and we'll grab the flag together. The fireworks are gonna start. It's a love song about your experiences with these games, and as someone who spent his entire life playing and loving Mario games, this song, like, I don't know, dude, it hit me in an emotional way that I don't think anything's hit me before. It's describing a relationship that's so personal instead of just being about 2 fictional characters, you know? It's a personalized feeling that, like, damn, man, maybe it's just the pretentious film student in me talking right now, but I seriously think this is just extremely smart. And you know, it probably sounds a little bit dumb to say that there's some meaningful connection between a person and a video game, but you know, it's all about the experiences these games bring you, and to recognize and celebrate and romanticize that in this wonderful, overwhelmingly amazing finale, it's just really good, okay? It's just good. I just like Mario a lot, okay? Leave me alone. I just really like Mario, okay? There's a connection here that does not exist as prominently in most other video games. Mario is the epitome of joy, the very definition of fun. He's so happy and excited to be able to entertain his players. For him, it's a privilege. That's why he thanks you at the end of every single Mario game.
Thank you so much for playing my game.
Thank you so much for playing my game. Thank you so much for playing my game.
Oh, except Sunshine. Apparently he was too busy having some fun in the sun to thank us on that one. So by this point, the credits have rolled, the game has ended, and you're back on your feet by the Odyssey. You probably have like 200, 300 moons by this point. You want to know how many are in the game? 8 freaking hundred something. You've barely even scratched the surface. After beating Bowser, they repopulate every single kingdom with tons of new moons, even brand new galaxy-style courses that you can access through these moon rock pipes. There's also, oh yeah, okay, we also got some gameplay spoilers, and I know that might sound a little bit silly, but you unlock some seriously cool stuff after you beat the game, and if you haven't seen it yet somehow, it's a pretty hefty surprise, so skip right here if you don't want to see it. Otherwise, I'll just, you unlock the Mushroom Kingdom. It's the castle grounds elaborated into an entire level. They've even got Yoshi on top of the castle. You can't ride them, but you can capture them, which is even better. There's even a retro Mario 64 costume you can get here, which is incredibly badass. You can even go to the courtyard from Mario 64, and it's all blocky and low res. The text on the statue isn't even legible, and the trees are low quality in 2D. It's amazing. And the best part is, when you get a moon here, they look like stars, and it goes... Man, Nintendo's dropping those nostalgia bombs hard this time. Every other Mario game's just like, hey, check out this 8-bit Mario sprite. Pretty cool, huh? And I've been growing a little tired of that, so it's incredible to see them go the extra mile and do something like this. So, the new level and more moons to collect aside, there's of course a reason why you're going to want to be getting more moons. If you collect 500, you get that final tough as nails bonus stage the series has come to be known for now. And it's a long one, testing a lot of different abilities, having you capture plenty of different kinds of enemies and using their skills to get past these difficult challenges. I don't think it's as hard as 3D World's final stage, but it's definitely harder to outlast. It's really fun though, it's gotta be my favorite one, without a doubt. And it has the most satisfying conclusion, a long climb up the final tower as you and Cappy reminisce on your long, amazing journey. It might seem overwhelming with the sheer amount of moons you need to 100% the game, but I don't think think that's much of a problem because you only need a fraction of them to get that final stage. Anything you get afterwards is just a small reward just to acknowledge that you did in fact get them all, which doesn't much matter. Well, I guess you do kinda unlock a harder version of the final boss, but if you ask me, the final level at 500 moons is all that's really worth playing to, unless you're a die-hard Mario fan or a completionist, or if you're 9 and you have no other Switch games. With the sheer amount of stuff to do, the amount of content that's in this game, Mario Odyssey easily has the best endgame content in the entire series, and that big final unlockable challenge stage, it is one of, if not the best one in the whole series, and getting all of those freshly placed moons to unlock it is an amazing time. And the game also doesn't encourage you to go nuts and get like every single one. It only requires 500 of like the 800, and I think that was a really good move. You can get them all if you want, but like I said, you really don't get that much for it, so it's entirely up to you on whether you do it or not. With no mega big deal reward, it's just something you can do if you feel like, instead of something you feel like you have to do, and I think that's the best way to handle this sort of thing. Now, I guess this review has been kinda pretty overwhelmingly positive so far, and the truth is it's because this is a very difficult game to criticize. Even after replaying it with a very critical eye, I had a very hard time finding things I didn't really like about this game. But of course, that doesn't mean there's nothing I think the game could do better. With such a gargantuan amount of moons to collect in this game, they do repeat some objectives across multiple kingdoms, some of which I do think are fine, like the Koopa freerunning for example. You're racing through different areas each time, so I don't think it's a big deal, but I don't like how you have to do each one twice to get both moons. Other repeating goals include the Goomba stacks, where you need to get a Goomba to a female Goomba, which again is fine because it's presented in different areas, so it plays out differently. We've got the Koopa trace walking challenge, which is a nice little thing. I liked it, but again, I don't like how it makes you do it twice to get both moons. There's one where you'll have to bring an NPC, an enemy you've captured, and sometimes it's cool because it requires trying to get an enemy outside of the zone that you thought you could bring him, so it's like, oh dang, I can get this guy over here, but other times it's as easy as just plopping a cheap in a fishbowl and it's not too exciting. Okay, you know, anything I can think of to criticize in this game are things that are just mildly repetitive, but aren't really a big deal because they're really brief and optional if you're not going for 100%. However, there is one part of the game that made me very upset, and yeah, it's the sheep thing. You gotta herd these sheep into a pen using Cappy to knock them around. It's not really that bad when you first see it in the Sand Kingdom, but there's a part when you do it later in the game when there's just way too many sheep and they're all really far from the pen and it takes ages to get them there. It's incredibly tedious and it sticks out like a sore thumb in this game full of fluid and smooth gameplay. I'm kinda surprised they didn't notice this during playtesting and decided to either remove or at least somewhat streamline it. The sheep thing also returns for one of those galaxy levels, and oh my god, it took me way too many tries, not because it's fair and challenging, but because it's annoying and dumb. And that is my only criticism of Mario Odyssey. No, but really, you know, there's some other stuff too, like the motion controls, which I mentioned way earlier in this video, and then also the some minor repetition as well, but those are really just nitpicks. It's just the sheep thing is the only thing I think they could have done way better in this game, but yeah, this is otherwise a very difficult game to criticize. Like, it's really that well made and polished, but honestly, I think the biggest thing I could really say about this game in regards to that is that despite all of the brilliant things this game really does, it really only feels like it's scratching the surface. Like, I feel like there's a million more things I could do with this formula. I feel like there's infinitely more potential they could crank out of this capture mechanic. I mean, think of all the Mario enemies we didn't get to see. Bloopers, Boos, Shy Guys, Koopas, Spikes, Thwomps, Toxboxes, Rexes, Resners, Bandits, Pokies. I think there's so much left to do here, and it makes me pray that they'll pull a Galaxy and make a Mario Odyssey 2, or at least some DLC or something. There's so many kingdoms I'd love to see return, like the Bean Bing Kingdom, Isle Delfino. Imagine going back to Delfino Plaza, how much they could revamp that map into one giant area with no loading screens, and tons of redesigned obstacles for you to climb while you look for moons. I actually had this idea for combining captures, like if you could combine any two Mario enemies. Imagine the potential for puzzles, like there's a fence underwater, so you have to combine a cheap sheep with a Boo to phase through it, or maybe there's a dog you gotta get rid of by throwing a bone, so you're like, okay, what throws things? Hammer Bros, right? I'll combine that with a Dry Bones to get a Hammer Bones, throw a bone and the dog goes to chase it. I don't know, stuff like that. You know, just an idea I had. There we go, you can have that one, Nintendo. It's a freebie on Nitro Rad, go nuts with it, but yeah, Odyssey is such an amazing game, man. Like, and I know I said that Galaxy Odyssey 2 might be the best Mario game, and I made that video on it, but after replaying every single one and really criticizing them all and getting down to the nitty-gritty of what I think I could do better and what I think I do well, honestly, I think Mario Odyssey is objectively the best one. At least I think so. I know I can't tell you what to think, but I can at least tell you what I think, and I think Mario Odyssey is the best Mario game. This game introduces some amazing new ideas, and it excels at how it implements them. It polishes Mario 64's brilliant structure into something nearly perfect, something that can fit the playstyle of so many different kinds of people, and they balance the open world levels with galaxy-style levels sprinkled in there as well. This game is a culmination of everything the series has learned by experimenting and trying so many different things in means of gameplay, structure, and narrative too, really. I think as it stands, Odyssey is the best Mario game, but I think some people aren't going to agree. You know, you might like Galaxy 1 or 2 better, depending on your tastes, but I think most people are going to at least agree this is one of the best Mario games. You know, maybe a second best or a third best. It's gonna be up there for most people, especially people that really like 64. I think Sunshine is still my favorite, though. I just really love that game's world, and I love how it controls, but I think it's mostly just because I grew up with it. So Odyssey is either a close second or it might be my actual favorite. I probably need like a year or two to look back and then decide, but yeah. So yeah, I guess that concludes the Super Mario Marathon. Thank you guys so much for watching me talk about Mario for like 3 months in a row. It's like my favorite series ever, you know. I've at least never been so consistently invested in a game series for literally my entire life, you know. Mario Bros. 3 was the first game I ever played, so like as long as I've known what video games were, I've been a fan of Mario. And honestly, I might have liked Mario longer than I've liked anything. Like, because anything else I can think of that I did at 3, like playing with Play-Doh and baby toys, I definitely don't do anymore. Stuff I still do, like riding my bike, I would have learned at like 7 or 8. I've liked Mario longer than I've liked anything. Wow, that's nuts. That's bonkers, dude. But yeah, we're all done the 3D games. I might do the 2D games sometime, but you know, I'm sure you guys want me to move on to other stuff, and I don't want to get sick of my favorite series, and there's a lot of other stuff I want to cover, like the Pac-Man World games, a lot of N64 games, so yeah, definitely more platformers to come. But never forget that when it comes to platformers, Mario is and will always be the king. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys very soon with some new awesome stuff. Yeah.